I can't stick to the ketogenic diet because donuts and snacks and fucking pizza and soda are what I need for my mental health. Can't you tell I'm fucking mentally healthy because I have these fucking things? That's right. I like on top of my mental health game because I'm eating all of these foods that make me fucking happy and I'm happy. Don't I look fucking happy, you piece of shit? Stop trying to force me into this ketogenic carnivore horse shit. So, I've heard it a million times. Not only in my comments, but also with people in my real life who I've had approach me about the diet. I've coached them on it. They give it a shot, and then a week later, they're back to normal. So there's a lot of things at work, and I've been asked this. How in the hell did you stick to keto for 5 years? Well, it wasn't fucking easy to start out with. That's the thing. That's the hump that so many people can't get over. Because here you are, you've got all these food addictions that give you dopamine, that give you that little pleasure. And you got this life full of shit that doesn't give you pleasure. Stress, drama, you name it. There's all kinds of crap in your life that causes you to want to self-medicate in just about every fucking way possible. So this is kind of where the rubber meets the road on the mental health side of things. And the things that you need to do to not only get control of your mental health aspects, but your physical health aspects. When you first approach a ketogenic or carnivore diet, you have a lot of addictions. In addition, you've also trained your subconscious. Now, addictions are really boiled down to, there's two types, and the one that you're going to be more focused on is the dopamine-driven behavior. Your dopamine system is designed to motivate you to do specific things for your survival, for you to continue to live. If we did not have a dopamine system, we would not get out of fucking bed every day. We wouldn't go to work. We wouldn't do all of these things that are designed to allow us to survive. We would just lay there until we fucking died if we didn't have a dopamine system. Unfortunately for us, the food industry and many other industries are banking on your dopamine system. They are taking full advantage of every addictive fucking tendency that you have and addicting you maximally to these things. And the food industry has scientists in lab coats and shit doing important science shit to make sure that you get that bliss when you eat this shit. When you're eating fucking sugar and Pop-Tarts and soda and fucking burgers and all of this shit, you know, all the shit you see behind me is dopamine shit. This is designed to give you a huge dopamine hit whenever you get it. So I've talked a lot about addiction, particularly in regards to my own addictive tendencies. I am just as much of an addict today as I was back when I ate that shit all the time. Complete same level of dopamine requirements for my get out of bed pleasure, to get me going, to motivate me. Where I changed, where it allowed me to stick to the diet, to stick to the lifestyle, is I had to do what I've often called addiction transfer. That's taking my dopamine requirement and training my subconscious to seek it elsewhere. And the only way to do this is to start out with good discipline, and you're going to fall a bunch. When I first started keto, I failed a whole bunch. I had cheat weekends, cheat months, cheat fucking days, cheat, you name it. Anyway, I would try eating just one Pop-Tart to not go over my carb limit. You know, there were all kinds of things I was doing that was sabotaging my ability to retrain my subconscious to seek those rewards through the foods that I was eating, through the alcohol I was drinking, and it took me a lot longer to get through that alcohol shit. And through sugar and all of this crap that I've spent my lifetime getting addicted to, and that likely you have as well. In order to get through that, first comes the hard part. You got to give it time. If you fail within the first week or two, which I've seen people do, they're all gung-ho, fucking I'm keto too, bitch, for a whole week, and then all of a sudden they have that beer at the bar, or they're sitting out there with their friends and they're eating that, and lo and behold, they didn't give themselves enough time to get over the addiction. And there's 2 steps to that process. First, you got to come up with a new addiction. Something that gives you a nice dopamine hit, a similar dopamine hit that you would get from eating a fucking Pop-Tart or a donut or drinking a soda. And you got to find something that is a lot healthier. That's subjective. For example, for me, I know I can go to video games, I can go to poker, I can do, certain forms of hiking I do are very healthy. They're dangerous, but they also give me a huge dopamine hit. My channel here on YouTube, that's a dopamine-driven activity that keeps me working my ass off constantly because I get dopamine hits. I get dopamine hits when my subscriber count goes up. I get dopamine hits when a video performs well. I get dopamine hits when I get the green icon instead of the fucking yellow icon. I get dopamine hits all over the place when I read a good comment, when I interact with you guys. I get more dopamine from that than I did from this. That's one of the things that has done. Now, that doesn't have to be you. I'm not saying, if you want to quit this, you got to start a YouTube channel. But somewhere out there is an activity that does not destroy your health, does not give you diabetes, does not destroy your autoimmune system, does not cause inflammation, does not cause anxiety, does not cause depression, does not cause obesity, does not cause heart disease, does not cause... There's somewhere out there you can get your dopamine without turning to this shit. Or to alcohol, for that matter. So, that's what you have to do to succeed at making a lifestyle change. And in the beginning is going to be the hardest part. First, there's biological changes that have to take place to become fat adapted on a ketogenic diet. This takes 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how fucked up you are. After that period, you're not out of the woods yet. You still have those food addictions. And not only do you have those food addictions, but those food addictions are being thrown in your face every fucking where you go. You going to a party? Going out to a restaurant? Walking through the store to buy your ketogenic foods? Watching shit on YouTube? Watching shit on TV? Fucking scrolling around your phone? This is constantly being thrown at you, and since you've trained your whole life to seek pleasure in this food, whenever you see it, your subconscious is like, hey, we need some dopamine right now. Life sucks. Let's go over there and get that. This is why you're alive. Go get that. That's calories over there. It makes me feel, it tastes really fatty, and it's also really sweet or salty, and these are all things that trigger dopamine in our bodies, and we go and fucking get it. And then we suffer. And it's to the point where we're so focused on the dopamine that we're ignoring all of the negative symptoms that are coming along with a standard American diet. And I really can't tell somebody who hasn't experienced the lack of symptoms when you escape this shit. And you're not going to experience it on the first week or even the first 6 weeks. I'd say 8 weeks is probably where you'll really start to notice, if you're paying attention, that symptoms are clearing up. Things like headaches, things that you used to put up with, inflammation's gone down, allergies go away. Not for everybody, but a lot of them, depending on what's in your diet. And you'll start to notice these changes. And every time you go back to the standard American diet, these things, they go away. You don't get the benefits anymore. And if you do it too often, you won't get the benefits. That's why cheat days need to be spaced out, and only once you're fat adapted. And I would even go further, say not to have a cheat day until you're over your addiction entirely. Till you can walk in the store or sit down at dinner with a friend and have no desire to eat what they're eating. If you're walking through the store and you walk by the cheesecake that's filled with sugar, the cookies or the breads or the pastas, and you're like, oh, I really want that right now. I can't, but it's my diet. I'm fucking tired of this fucking diet shit. I just want a fucking bowl of pasta. You're not ready. When I go through the store, the reason I'm able to stick to my diet is I'm walking in there looking for the foods that I normally eat, and I feel no reaction. My subconscious is now trained to the point where it does not recognize pasta, bread, cookies, soda, chips, all of this crap that's out there, these processed foods. My brain no longer recognizes them as something to seek, to get dopamine. In fact, whenever I've had a cheat day, and I've tried these things, I'm thinking I'm going to get a nice big dopamine hit out of the deal. Like if I sit down and have some fucking hash browns, I'm thinking, oh, I'll get some dopamine. If I have a bowl of pasta, I'm like, yes, dopamine. But I don't get it as much. I don't get as much pleasure from these foods as I used to. It's weird. That's because I've retrained my subconscious. Hey, this is not going to reward me. This is going to probably fucking kill me. And that comes through knowledge and practice. You have to do the only way to retrain your subconscious is to repeat an activity over and over and over again until your brain associates a certain thing with the dopamine reward. As in, you find it rewarding, you seek that out. Ribeyes. I have thoroughly trained my brain that when I'm fucking hungry, ravenously hungry, ribeye is number one on the list. I get a lot of dopamine when I sit down to a nice, juicy, very rare, spiced moderately ribeye steak, and I sit down and I eat that motherfucker, and it's usually smothered in fucking butter. And I can't tell you how much. There's a lot of dopamine and pleasure that comes from that. But it wasn't always so. Because me from 5 years ago would have needed to eat Pop-Tarts and eat cookies and cakes and fries and burgers and all of the other shit to get that dopamine. Now, when I need that little boost emotionally from something, I've now trained my brain to say, hey, that ribeye is what we need to survive. We feel good when we do it. It's made us not get depressed, and it's through that repetitive action. And that's what I've done with all of the foods I eat on my diet. They've all been ingrained into me. So much so that when I'm craving food, when I'm hungry, I seek those foods out and ignore this shit. But this is not a process that is arrived to like that. It took a few years to get through this. I would say honestly, and even all down to the alcohol part of it, which I only recently gave up, it took a long time to get over the addictions. Now, if I sit down and I have a cookie 9 times out of 10, it's going to be too sweet for me. I've completely changed my sweet sensitivity to, and not only that, so I'm not getting as much dopamine from eating the cookie. It's too sweet, almost nauseatingly sweet in a lot of cases, because a lot of these motherfuckers overload with way more sugar than we would need. If we could lower our sweet sensitivity, we could probably drastically increase our health. But they're all in the food lab saying, okay, how much fucking sugar can we pump into this shit, or sweetness that we can pump into this to make it fucking sell more? Counterintuitive with taking some of that sugar out, lowering most people's dopamine response to that. But once you've taken that out of your life for a significant portion of time, to the point where you can walk through the store or sit down in a room while fasting even and watch people eat the shit and not crave it, once you get to that point, the whole world opens up to you in terms of keto. And as long as you don't dip your toe in that addictive substance very often, and even sometimes when you do, you'll find that you've changed. You've rewired yourself. And the only way at that point, like for example, the only way I could go back to eating this shit all the time is to force myself to eat this shit all the time. And then I would retrain my conscious that this is where we're getting our fucking survival from. This is our dopamine hit. Give me back my pleasure. Bring down my sweet sensitivity so I can tolerate 70 grams of fucking sugar in one donut or whatever the fuck it is. It's almost insane how some of these are sweetened. And I could go back to being an unhealthy, fat piece of shit, which is what I was when I started this journey. You know, on the road to heart disease and diabetes. Already had signs of it. Higher blood pressure, pre-diabetic numbers on my fucking blood sugar levels, and I got to it before my beta cells started failing. So I think I'm out of the woods on that for now. But, you know, it wasn't until I started exploring the mental health side of things that I really got tore into this addiction stuff. And for a while, it took me the same thing to get over alcohol. For the past 6 to 7 months, I have not craved a drink. And that's because not only did I stop the behavior, which took willpower to start with, I had to definitely not drink. Every time something was fucked up, or if I'm out with friends having a good time, that's the hardest part, to be honest with you, was being out. I know all of my friends drink, like fish. And it's sad because it's destroying their health. But that's their life. They're adults. They know where I stand on this shit for the most part, and that's what they choose to do. But it sometimes pains me to see that. But that it's the situation where you can get sucked in to breaking your diet. And the only way around it is to find other outlets for that addiction. But it takes time in the beginning to get over it. And every time you dip your toe back in the addictive substances, it takes longer to get over that addiction. So in the beginning, it's really a willpower thing. But I think if you educate yourself on all of the bad that this diet provides you here, this standard American diet, once you start really focusing on that and learning just how bad this shit is for you, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to be like, okay, so I'm going to fucking die 20 years earlier. I'm going to keep eating that shit till that happens. That's an addiction thing. Whenever you're trying to justify eating this shit, or to say, I can't do keto, I've heard that a lot too. Why can't you do keto? Is there something wrong? I mean, I don't like meat. Well, you don't have to be a fucking meaty-ass keto. You don't have to eat any more meat on keto than you eat on the standard American diet. You just got to up the fat. And that's easy to do. Just put fat on everything. Get you a nice big salad, put a bunch of butter on it. You're going to have other issues. But you're still going to be healthier than this diet. That is the point. No matter what form of keto you do. You can even do plant-based keto for you fucking vegans. You can do that. You're not going to get all of the same benefits doing that but you will still be better than this diet. We spend a lot of time here as nutrition motherfuckers on YouTube going back and forth on my diet is better than your diet, and your diet is a piece of shit. You're a vegan, I hate your diet. And, and meanwhile, the majority of people watching these fucking videos could give two shits because they're still eating this shit. We need to focus a bit. We need to understand and I'm not just saying listen to this video and suddenly commit to being keto and sticking to it. Go out and learn how your brain works. How does the dopamine system work? How does our subconscious work? I've listened to audiobooks on this subject. That's kind of how I arrived at these hypotheses. And that's all this is. I can't say that what I did to stick to the diet is going to work for all of you. It's a matter of training your subconscious. Your subconscious is what says, okay, we need dopamine, let's go eat that. And you can retrain that, and I'm positive of that, by refocusing where I get my dopamine from. And then repeating that behavior over and over again so that my subconscious does it. And one of the things I've done is I've transferred my addiction. YouTube's a big thing that I've transferred to. But I've done gaming. Right now I'm into music, like making music and singing. I suck at it, but I get a dopamine hit while I'm doing it. A big one. That's what I'm talking about. And if you keep repeating that dopamine hit, your subconscious is going to be like, okay, it's dopamine time. That's part of the addictive personality, in terms of me anyway. And my subconscious is going to be like, okay, you need to go do this again. Because this is how we are surviving. This is our reward. This is how you get your dopamine. If you don't train, you're going to focus on this. So you're going to have cravings for this. Whenever life gets you down, whenever things are stressful. Stress is a big, one of the big causes of requiring you to acquire some dopamine is stress and stress recovery. So when you're stressed out and you're worried about shit and you're upset about shit, your subconscious is going to trigger. It's going to be like, hey, we need some dopamine, and this is how we get our dopamine, because we've taught our subconscious over the years that is how we get our dopamine. That is how we recover from these things. And you have to retrain that whole system in order to stick to a ketogenic lifestyle or an intermittent fasting or a carnivore lifestyle. You have to train yourself. You're not going to immediately go on the diet and get over all of this addiction. And I don't know, and I have been looking and researching on addiction. I don't know that there's a way to reduce our dopamine requirements. Some have told me yes. Some have told me no. I've experimented with moderation to see if that's a thing. Turns out I lost. I was trying to be a moderate drinker. Didn't work out. So now I've completely given up alcohol. I have other addictions that are less detrimental than alcohol. Alcohol has fatty liver issues. Alcohol destroys your health. And I hate to piss in the pool of you keto drinkers out there, but you're not getting all the way there. And if there's any symptoms you're having issues with, I would try and give up the alcohol for a while, at least for a good 6 to 8 months, just to see if those issues you're still having on the diet that you want to fix go away. I mean, if you're happy with the way things are and you happen to be drinking, then more power to you. But just know that you are shaving years off of your health span, and you will not resolve every symptom that you have, like whether it be a plateau or other health problems. Alcohol causes damage, much like overindulging in fructose does. Same damage, by the way. So, giving up all of this and still drinking like a fish, counterproductive. Slightly healthier, you'll lose the weight, you'll do all kinds of stuff differently. But in terms of health, in terms of symptoms, in terms of damage to your body, not giving up the alcohol is, you might as well still be on the standard American diet. You're just not going to get all the way there. I've seen people go keto for quite a while on alcohol, but I find that they're still hovering in that addiction realm, and 9 times out of 10, they fall off the diet because, I would believe, because alcohol is a part of it. But that's just a theory. I can't speak to anything like that for anybody else. I just know for me, getting rid of the alcohol was like kind of the final step. I don't need to worry about tweaking my shit anymore. I'm happy with how I feel right now. I'm happy with my weight. I'm happy with my labs, even with the vitamin D deficiency. I need to get out more. It's raining today. There's no vitamin D there. But, you know, these are all things I've been doing that I'm to the point now where I can just live my life, be keto, have an occasional cheat meal, just to test the system out, kick it into repairing itself here and there. And that's where I'm at. And I don't get re-addicted because I only have one little meal. And one little meal isn't enough to retrain your subconscious to seeking dopamine. You know, it's not that addictive. This food's not that addictive. It's addictive. But it's not addictive to the point where if you have just one fucking cheat day after, you know, a year or 6 months or 8 months of being fat adapted, you're probably not going to re-addict on one cheat day. Now, if you have a cheat day every week, you're playing with fire. You have a cheat day every other day or twice a week, or maybe you have a whole cheat binge, like a weekend where you just, or you take a whole week off and you eat that shit. You're going to be re-addicted. Back to square one, have to start all over again. I've done that restart multiple times in my ketogenic journey, and it is not fun because you end up in this perpetual feeling like shit realm. And a lot of people get into that realm because they cheat too often and they don't feel good on the diet, so they blame the fucking diet. No, it's not the fucking diet. It's the fact that you have too many cheat days. And you will probably have started doing this long before you're over the fat adaptation period or the addiction period. And in order to get through the addiction period, you have to get that dopamine from another source, depending on what causes you to have dopamine hits. What other behaviors in your life give you the same pleasure or even more pleasure than eating the shit you see behind me here? That's what it takes to stick to the diet. Now, I want to get into some comments that kind of touch on this subject more from a carnivore perspective that came in on the carnivore diet failure video I just put out. So let's take a look at these comments here. Let me zoom in a little. C Moon wrote, "Can't really blame Jordan Peterson. I also suffer from depression, anxiety, stress, and OCD, among other things." I hear you there. I can be in deep ketosis and everything is good. I can be several weeks off tobacco and nicotine products. But if a major stressful event comes into my life, I'm still reaching for a cigarette and scruff, and I'm still reaching for the junk food. And that's what I'm talking about right there. Transfer that addiction. You need to retrain. You know, your subconscious at first is going to still want you to do those things. So there's a little bit of discipline involved. And in order to do that, every time you get into that mode where you're wanting a cigarette or you're wanting the junk food, you need to go and find something that gives you a huge dopamine hit that does not have the detrimental effects of smoking cigarettes and eating junk food. Something that does probably have some negative aspect, but they might be less. It's like choosing, and I hate this analogy, but choosing a prescription drug based on whether or not it's going to cause you too much fucking side effects. Well, the side effects of eating junk food and smoking are pretty clear. You're going to get fat, you're going to have heart disease, you're going to have fucking cancer, you're going to have all kinds of problems. You're going to have lung problems. These are all, there's a laundry list of side effects to getting your dopamine from those particular things. But, if you go out to the casino and you blow $20 in the slot machine, not that I'm saying that this is productive, but it's still healthier than all that other shit. But that could lead to more stress. That could be a rabbit hole, so I'm not even suggesting that as an option. But find some behavior that you like to do, something that does bring you pleasure, and focus on that every time you want a cigarette or you're reaching for junk food. Because if you just deny your subconscious of those things without offering an alternative source of dopamine, you're going to cave into the addiction. That's just a fact. You can't just say, ignore the dopamine system and be like, I'm dying for a cigarette, you piece of shit. I want to eat right now. You can't. You can't ignore it. You need to feed the beast. And you need to repetitively feed your subconscious. Every time you're seeking that behavior, every time your subconscious is saying, I'm dying for a fucking cigarette, I want some fucking food, I'm going to go get me a pizza right now. Every time your body is or your brain is fucking with you and saying, go get this shit, you got to go get the other shit. Whatever it is in your life that provides that similar dopamine hit. And there are things, if you look around, and you might even discover new ones. Try new shit. See what you can do. And it all depends. It's subjective. What piques your interest? What drives you? What gives you dopamine? What makes you seek out behaviors? Other addictive things. I can think of a big one, but you're probably already doing it. If you're already doing it all the time, you can't necessarily transfer your addiction to it. You have to come up with something you don't do all the time and repetitively replace the things you're craving. And eventually, you'll start craving that activity or that substance. In my case, ribeyes, for example. I crave that. Why? Because if I ever crave anything, I would go out and buy a ribeye instead, because I get dopamine from it. Are there ketogenic foods that you can addict to, that you do enjoy? Are there carnivore foods that you do enjoy? If the answer is yes, it's going to be pretty fucking easy for you. If the answer is no, you're going to have to get that dopamine from other sources. So whenever you're having some major problems in your life, going back to these substances is a bad call. Find some other source of pleasure, because that's all you're getting. You're not solving your problems. In fact, these foods and the cigarettes will not solve the stressful event or your reaction to it. You're going to be just as fucked up, only now you're smoking and eating shit. And you'll get a few hours of fucking dopamine out of the deal, and you'll be like, oh, I needed that. But then 2 hours later, not only will the problem still be there, and the emotions and the stress and the anxiety and the depression, all of that's still going to fucking be there, and it's probably going to be 10 times worse than it was because of the effects of our diet on our health, on our mental health, on our systems. You're going to be inflamed. You're going to be miserable. And the only thing your brain is going to know to do is, well, I need more of that. And it's fucking, it gets out of control. People can probably, you see it all over the place. People just medicating every couple hours to deal with their life. That's because their system has been trained that anytime stress, anytime inflammation, anything that your body has to deal with, that it feels you need to do something it needs to motivate you to do something, it's going to motivate you whenever these situations occur. You have to teach it what kinds of behaviors are acceptable and what kinds are causing you problems. And that is a learning process, coupled with discipline in the beginning. And you might be like, I don't have any discipline. Well, you're looking at me. I fucking had zero discipline most of my life. I didn't give two fucks. I got fat. I was like, I owned it. I was fat. I enjoyed being fat. I used to joke about it. I used to call myself a fat fuck. Because I was fat, I would call other fat people fat fucks. Because we were all fat fucks in this together. Now I can't get away with that. Because I'm skinnier. Doesn't mean I don't still think it. Only Cole gets away with that on Snake Diet. So, when it comes down to it, if you want to stick to the ketogenic or carnivore diet, that technique is most effective, and start learning about how to retrain your subconscious. There's books on the subject. There's probably a lot of videos on the subject. I haven't really I've delved into the book side of it because I saw a title, it intrigued me. I read it. Well, I listened to it, and I was like, I can totally apply that to my addiction problems. And that's how I stick to the diet. I don't even think about it. It's not even a thing. I walk into a store. I know exactly what I'm going to eat. Every once in a while, like I said, I'll throw a cheat day in for a couple reasons. There's some foods that I do still get a dopamine hit out of, but they've changed because I've retrained my subconscious, And a lot of the foods that used to bring me huge dopamine spikes that I would crave, I try them now and they don't do anything for me. Why? Because I've changed. I've retrained not only my brain on what I find is a rewarding survival type situation, at the same time I've lowered my stress level because of the diet. And a lot of people aren't getting this, that your inflammation and your gut bacteria and your leaky gut situations and your liver health, all of these things, inflammation itself has been tied directly to depression and anxiety. When you fix the diet, you lower your thresholds a lot. So it's going to take a lot more for you to react, for you to be stressed out, to want to seek some kind of comfort in a substance or an activity. So this is my natural response to stress. It's everyone's natural response to stress. When you are stressed, when your cortisol jumps up, your body has a physical reaction. It realizes you need to recover, and part of the recovery process is seeking dopamine. It's how we're motivated. Like I said, if you got depressed and stressed, and there was no dopamine, you would never get out of it. You would never get up off the couch and be like, hey, I need to do something. And that system is our natural system. Everyone is wired this way. Some people have a lot of problems, though. Some people have been really taken advantage of in terms of the dopamine system. That's why so many people are addicted to shit and self-medicating, and that's how the standard American diet continues to thrive among the majority of people. More and more people are waking up. They're realizing their health is going way down faster than they could manage. But I guarantee you, if it wasn't as much of a train wreck diet as it is now, people would just stick to it because of the dopamine and addiction issues. Unfortunately, the health situation for most people does hit a wall now, and it hits a wall fairly early. So people are being forced now to look to improve their health because they can't afford the medical bills, the poor quality of life, and all the other issues that come when you hit the health wall. But there's always some that are just so addicted, they can't even snap out of it. They know it's bad. They know it's causing them problems, and they can't stop. It's because they haven't been able to retrain themselves. And some people don't even have the discipline to retrain their subconscious to seek that dopamine elsewhere. I don't know that you can just get rid of dopamine as far as, lower the amount of dopamine you need to cope with stress and anxiety. I don't know. Is there a way to reduce it? You're asking the wrong motherfucker, because I'm just as addicted as a lot of you. The difference between me, who's been keto for a while, and somebody who fails at keto constantly, is I have been training myself by repeating these activities over and over again whenever I had a craving. If I'm craving fucking standard American diet, I would go and eat lots of keto. Oh, I'm hungry? Gonna eat keto. Oh, I really want pasta? What can I make that's keto that is kind of like pasta? Oh, I want a Pop-Tart? What can I make that's keto? Or what can I have somebody bake for me, because I'm not much of a baker, that's keto, that is close to it? If I want cheesecake, well, turns out there's a lot of cheesecake recipes. I want a cookie? Guess what? I can make keto cookies or have somebody make them for me. Not to mention there's products coming out now that are in this realm. There's keto junk food, just like everything else. It's just not going to kill you as bad as the standard American diet junk food. These are all methods I've used to stick to this diet, even through stressful times. And when I told you my anxiety went down significantly on keto, I meant it. And it wasn't that my life got any less stressful. It's just that my tolerance improved to a point where it takes a lot more to give me anxiety. Things have to be pretty fucking bad for me to worry now. I still mildly am concerned about shit every now and then, but it doesn't stop me. It doesn't interfere with my life. It's probably the natural, healthy way to worry about shit. But it wasn't always so. Anxiety would prevent me from doing things in the past. Probably in some cases good, because I do take risks that I probably would never have previously done. But that's part of living life. And guess what? When you take one of those risks and it pays off, you get dopamine. Just thoughts on that. So let me continue with these two comments and then we'll wrap this shit up. Keto is nice and all. Carnivore is probably nice too. But to expect a diet to be able to completely change our mental programming is just foolish at best. And while that's partially right, you're not just going to change your mental programming by going keto and carnivore, but it is a great supplement to doing so. If you're on the standard American diet and you're trying to get rid of your smoking addiction, you're going to find it a hell of a lot harder than if you're a healthy keto or carnivore trying to get over your smoking addiction. Why? Because you'll be able to affect those changes more easily. And you're not introducing a lot of additional stressors into your diet that are causing inflammation, that are causing autoimmune problems, and you're just adding all these problems. Like you get this massive fucking headache for 2 days. I know people that do this. I haven't had headaches very often, if at all. And if I do have a headache, it's usually a dehydration thing. And it doesn't happen maybe once every 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know. It's a long time between headaches for me. And nowhere near the headaches I used to get when I was on the standard American diet. So clearly that can be associated with me leaving the standard American diet. When you're adding all of these additional stressors, minor as they may seem, especially if you're used to experiencing them all the time, doesn't take away from the fact that you're just piling shit on for your subconscious and your dopamine system to have to deal with. And every time you encounter a stressor or a depressor, you're going to be seeking reward, seeking that pleasure. So serotonin ties into this too. And your serotonin is very diet related as well. So there's a lot of these biochemicals, these compounds in our brains that dictate our mood. Precursors come from our diet. Our gut health produces some of these precursors. And inflammation and stress can cause us to need more of these chemicals in our brain. So, these are all things, while diet is not exclusive to mental health, you're going to have a better shot at good mental health on one of these diets than you will on a standard American diet. There is no justification for a standard American diet. Not even mental health problems. That's like saying, oh, I have a mental health problem. Let me go get some fentanyl and take care of it. I feel so much better every time I have fentanyl. That's poor logic. Just saying. And if you view the standard American diet in that degree, because that's really how harmful it is to you over the long term, it doesn't kill you quick, it kills you slowly. If you think of the standard American diet in those terms, it's going to seem less appealing, you know. And smoking is just as, if not worse, just as bad. I'd say they're about equal. I would now equate the standard American diet to smoking in terms of health detriments. As in, you're just as likely to die from a standard American diet as you are if you smoke. And if you do both, it's multiplicative in my book. So that's my thoughts on that. I never have and never will claim that keto fixed or solved my depression. And I don't claim that it fixed or solved my depression. It made it better. I haven't called myself cured of depression yet, but I do go long periods of time without it now. And I'm currently in one of those long periods of time being depression free. And the only variable I've been fucking with is my diet. And the variable I fucked with the most is getting rid of a lot of plants. And that has allowed me to be depression free. And I've also fucked with the variable of getting rid of alcohol. You know, and the only way to narrow that down would be to drink again. And I kind of don't want to. And there's other factors in that. Not only have I trained myself to not seek pleasure in drinking, I often see a lot of other people experiencing the pains and sufferings and poor health consequences of drinking too often. Comes with the territory when you work in a bar. So that further trains my subconscious that there's no reward to be seeking for me drinking. And if you can apply that logic to smoking or the standard American diet, you'll find it easier to get over those addictions. I can't offer anybody a cure for depression. I can only tell people what I've done for my depression. There are many variables in terms of causes of depression. It can be gut health. It can be a traumatic event. It can be, leaky gut is another thing. Inflammation is a definite link to depression. Depression is a natural symptom that we are designed to experience. The problem is our food environment and our social environment and our environment in general have thrown us into this realm to where we're more likely to be depressed than not. And with some people, they go way down this rabbit hole. And I don't have an answer for that. I just know from the perspective of troubleshooting my own symptoms. And I share that knowledge so that other people can try these things if they too are suffering from depression. By no means do I say, if you go carnivore, you're going to cure your depression. I'm saying that when I went carnivore, my depression went away. Every single time. It was a repeatable outcome for me. If I were to go eat the standard American diet for a week, I would be depressed as fuck. I would be anxious as fuck. I would have autoimmune problems. These are all repeatable outcomes that I can thoroughly test on myself by either adding the offending thing or removing it. Now, I'm not about to go fucking re-addict myself to the standard American diet to test this theory out. But I can tell you from my early days when I did have cheat weekends and cheat weeks and fall off the diet regularly, that was often the consequences. I went back to feeling like shit. I went back to gaining weight. All of the things I was fixing were unfixed every time I went back to that lifestyle. That's part of the process. Realizing that, identifying these things, figuring out your symptoms. And the more you look into this, and the more you start to try and work on the mental side of it, and it is a mental game to have that discipline in the beginning, to get through the fat adaptation period, and to train your subconscious to seek dopamine in the foods that you're allowed to eat on the diet. And if you can't get it all there, find something else to supplement that reward-seeking behavior. Because if you just give in to what your subconscious is, you're not telling it anything to change. You're saying, okay, we need dopamine. I know I get dopamine every time we go eat this fucking Pop-Tart. Get your ass over there and get some Pop-Tarts, bitch. And you're like, okay, I'll get another Pop-Tart. I know it's bad for me. It's killing me, but I'm going to fucking do it anyway. And some people are just so bad with that that they're falling apart at the seams, and they continue the behavior. Like, there's diabetics in the hospital getting shit cut off of them, and they're sitting there fucking still stuffing their face with the shit and drinking a big, huge fucking 3-liter of Coca-Cola, wash it down with. These are all things that people do when they've fallen into that hopeless addiction cycle. And I just kind of want to get people thinking about the mental side of it, because I know a lot of people fail at keto. It doesn't have to be so. And the other thing is you have to value the results. And you're not going to experience the results if you cheat on the regular, especially if you're doing it during the adaptation period, 6 to 8 weeks. Ideally, making it a whole year without a cheat would set you up for success for years to come, in my opinion. But you got to keep that in the back of your mind that you need to retrain yourself. You need to focus your addictions elsewhere. You can't get rid of them, not that I'm aware of. But to try and justify eating shitty food or smoking or drinking or drug use or any of these other things, if you're trying to justify it by saying, well, this is the only way I can cope with my mental health issues, I think you're focusing that energy in the wrong direction. Try retraining yourself. There's lots of books on the subject. Meditation is a thing. There's mindfulness, that kind of stuff. These are all things that you can learn. Philosophy that can help you work on these things. No one's going to hand you a magic cure for depression. It requires a lot of work on your own part. And I've been doing that work a while now, and it's starting to pay off. And I hope that some of you who are still in the muck, still circling the drain on these depression and anxiety issues, can see that it can be done. You can work on these things, and you can do so without a pharmaceutical involved. Then maybe you'll eventually get to the point where you can overcome your depression and anxiety, or at least make it so manageable that it's not a big problem in your life anymore. So these are all things that you can try going forward, in my opinion. So he just keeps it in check like a dog on a leash. I know about 9.9 out of 10 times I have a cheat day or get kicked out of ketosis, the depression, and all my other issues come back. And that's a no-brainer. It's a repeatable outcome for you. So clearly the diet does provide you with a benefit with your depression and anxiety. But that doesn't get you out of the woods in terms of the addiction, in terms of retraining your subconscious to seek the dopamine that your body's screaming for when it's telling you you're depressed and anxious. Usually there's other issues involved there. To go to those things to find relief. That's the problem. Retrain your brain. Work on it. Retrain your subconscious. These are all things you can do to stick to the diet. Otherwise, you're not gonna. And I can tell you, if I can do it, and I'm a pretty addictive motherfucker, my mother's been doing it, and she arguably has slightly more cheat days than I do, so she stuck to it. I've seen people successfully do this and change their life in profound ways. Not just mentally, but physically as well. And that goes hand in hand. Better physical health can only assist and supplement better mental health. Very rarely will you find somebody who is very physically healthy, as in all their labs are good, they're not on any medications, they're not experiencing tons of hospital visits, they're fit, they're great, everything's good, they don't have any symptoms. as far as no headaches, no anxiety, no coughing, none of this other shit. They're just able to continue with their life and not have any issues whatsoever. Somehow they're not experiencing... You're not going to find someone like that who's experiencing soul-crushing levels of depression and anxiety. A healthier body can only assist in a healthier mind. And I'm not saying that's going to get you all the way there, but part of the reason I believe my mental health improved over the years is because my physical health improved over the years. The more unhealthy you are, the worse off you're going to be in terms of mental health. And most of the people I see that are suffering the most from mental health problems also have very shitty physical health. I would be hard-pressed to point out somebody I know in my life that is perfectly physically healthy with no symptoms whatsoever who is suffering from severe depression and anxiety. Not to say they won't get worried or stressed out, but the mental health decline that I see in most people go hand in hand with lifestyle and food environment in terms of health. So, just some thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments on this. This is an interesting subject to me. It's kind of in my wheelhouse in terms of nutrition versus the mental health aspect, and I think that goes hand in hand with people who fail at the ketogenic diet. So later on, you wrote, should I stick with keto, carnivore, keto, or try carnivore yet another time? My experience with a carnivore diet is faulty at best. Couldn't even last 2 weeks. And it's a similar thing transitioning to carnivore than when you transition to keto. But if you're not sticking to keto to begin with, you're going to probably not be able to stick to carnivore. Carnivore is just like the next step up the rung from keto in terms of foods that you're eliminating. So I would start with keto if I were you. And once you've nailed that and you want to take it to the next step by refining it, and I don't even think that you need to go all the way carnivore, but you might need to drop down to carnivore for a good month. If you can't last a month, then you got addiction problems. You got to retrain your subconscious. And I don't think you're going to jump into carnivore and be able to get that knocked out right away, because you're going to have a big dopamine deficit at that point, because you might not get dopamine from eating steak and eggs. All right? But there might be something on the keto diet that'll give you some dopamine that you can focus on every time you're craving shit. So I would not say jump into carnivore. I would not advise it as the opening salvo in your war against the fucking bad health and the bad mental health. Try and stick to keto for a year. If you stick to keto for a year, you're going to see improvements. And then if you want to continue and go forward from there, carnivore is on the table. That's what happened with me. I was keto majority of the time. I had a lot of vegetables in the beginning. I've been weaning that down over the years. And ever since I started experimenting with full carnivore periodically, I realized, well, yeah, full carnivore solves my mental health issue. I don't get depressed. I don't get pleasure either as much. I don't have the highs as much either. So there's that. But I was able to shift my addictions elsewhere. And now I crave mostly carnivore foods when I'm hungry. So it's that retraining process. You got to have repetitive behavior to do this. You have to do these things over and over again so that you're able to derive pleasure from them. Now, if you hate meat to begin with, you're probably not going to be able to get any dopamine from the carnivore diet, which leaves you with two options. You have to massively re-addict yourself to other things whenever you're craving shit and whenever you need that fix of dopamine, while at the same time maintaining your diet. So that's a big problem to solve if you're looking to fix your physical health and you just can't stick to the diet because you're not getting any pleasure out of the deal. The whole point is finding that pleasure wherever you can, in any place but smoking and eating the standard American diet. So I fell off because I felt sick. I started hating the smell and taste of meat and eggs. I actually got depressed from seeing no green on my plate. These are all addiction dopamine issues here, you know? And the feeling sick issue is just an adaptation issue. That goes away. That'll be the first thing to go away. But this other part is because you're not trained to seek pleasure in those foods. You have not. And some people are going to need more training than others in this. You know, there's foods that I eat now that I used to hate that I retrained. You know, not much on the carnivore diet. I've always been a good meat eater. I always liked eggs. But this is your addiction talking right here. Your brain's gonna be like, I'm not giving you no dopamine for this shit. The fuck you think you're doing, you piece of shit? You need to get back over there with them fucking donuts and shit. And some soda and some beer and some whiskey and some cigarettes. Because I ain't giving you shit for this shit. You're going to be miserable eating this. But if you repeat the behavior long enough, you're going to find that you've retrained your subconscious that this is what needs to give me that reward. This is how we're surviving. And you need to teach your brain in more than one way. You need to also figure out what benefits you can associate with the diet. You need to find out, you know, the symptoms that went away. And you sounds like you've kind of identified it a little bit. But the symptoms that go away, you need to remind yourself of that regularly. Do I really want to go back to having that shit? To having that in my life, those symptoms that go away whenever you go keto and carnivore? You've clearly shown in your comment earlier, and it's been my personal experience as well, that symptoms go away when you do these diets. You need to reinforce that by concentrating on it, by even if it means saying it out loud. I would eat that, but this is going to cause this, and this, and this to me. And I don't want that. And for me, personally, depression is the worst. If I could put up with fucking hives, I could put up with being fat, I could put up with dropping dead of a grabber in 10 years. But you throw depression and anxiety in that mix, and I'm like, whoa, I don't want that shit. That is probably the biggest mitigating factor. I have concentrated and learned so much about this that whenever I even think about eating one of those foods, the first thing that pops into my brain is, whoa, depression and shit. Whoa, anxiety and shit. And that's kind of a mental learning preparation you can do, in addition to habit. Forming new habits that provide you with dopamine, or that you can teach your brain to provide you dopamine for, while at the same time educating yourself on all the positives and negatives of going keto or carnivore in terms of your personal experience as well. I mean, if you feel good, you feel good. If you feel bad, you feel bad. You're going to feel bad in the beginning, though. That's the deceptive part. That's the part that nobody makes it past, for the most part, that fails at keto, is that first 6 to 8 week period where you physically have to adapt before you feel good. And that is also a withdrawal period from a lot of this addiction, which you're probably going to feel shitty. You're not going to feel on top of the world, and you're going to be low on dopamine in the beginning. And you're going to need some crutches for that. Otherwise, you're going to go back. You're going to fail every time. Find that dopamine somewhere else. Craving fucking Pop-Tart? Go out and fucking hike a trail and climb a mountain. When you get to the top of the mountain, you're going to get a huge dopamine hit. You're going to forget all about the fucking Pop-Tart. And if you do that every time your brain's saying, oh, we're craving this right now, we want to do this activity or this thing, and you don't want to do that thing anymore, you need to focus that onto something else that'll provide a similar reward. And you can stack rewards. You can take a bunch of little dopamine activities and combine them. by doing them one after the other to get your full dosage that you maybe got from eating a cookie or a Pop-Tart or smoking a cigarette or drinking a fucking beer. These are all things that you can do. Now, some of those substances are physically addictive. Nicotine, I believe, is physically addictive. Alcohol can be physically addicted. I don't think I was physically addicted to it. I didn't get any shakes or anything when I quit. Sugar, I got a little bit of shakes out of. So these are all things to keep in mind. There are physical and mental addictions. And what I'm reading through what you're telling me here is you definitely have a mental addiction, as in when you are feeling like shit mentally, you're going to go for these bad things. And my hope is that you discover that there are other things to focus on, that you can get that dopamine from, that won't kill you or have you in the medical system, on the pharmaceutical industry, getting more and more drugs put into your life that are going to have even more problems, that are going to cause you to go down this rabbit hole and you'll have a lifelong fucking prescription for drugs, and you're still going to be miserable and depressed and anxious and shit. It just might be a little bit more manageable with the pharmaceuticals. So that's my thoughts there. I was pharmaceuticalized early on in my mental health problems, and I learned very quickly that was a poor choice for me, and I've chosen to either ride out the depressions over the course of my life, and eventually got to the point where I wanted to do something about it, and I have. And I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. I don't trust any of the medical industry in terms of mental health at this point. And all you have to do is do a little research on your history for mental health, and that'll give you quite a big picture. I'm talking back in the early days of mental health, the things that we used to do to people who had mental illness were atrocious. And to think that we've somehow come a long way from that, I think we've just made it more palatable. I think we're still a very pilled up society that hasn't offered a mental health cure to anyone. I don't know anybody that went to the shrink, took a drug for a little while, got better, and then could get off the drug and live their normal life. 9 times out of 10, you go to a shrink for mental illness, you're going to have a drug for life. You're never going to resolve it, and you're going to have to keep going back. That's not a cure. That's a profitable Band-Aid. So I don't throw around the word cure in terms of diet and depression, but it's definitely the healthiest way to manage them if you train yourself, if you do these things. That's my thoughts. I could be completely wrong. I just want to give you some ideas that you could probably try. These are the things I'm doing, and they are currently, I can't guarantee they're going to always work. Granted, I haven't had any severe traumatic events recently, but I've done a lot of serious life changes that are very stressful for a lot of people that with anxiety would be almost impossible. So I have put myself through a little bit of the ringer in terms of the anxiety side of the house and come out just fine. But in terms of the depression side of the house, it's only my more recent changes that have really showed progress for me. So I'm not ready to say carnivore cures depression or keto does all of this. I'm just telling you anecdotally my experience with it. So I've been keto for 2 years on and off. It's the off part I think you're struggling with there. So I'm fat adapted. You lost 40 pounds, regaining it all when trying and failing carnivore. That's that whole failing part. And I'm telling you, you're doing the same thing that I did in the first 2 years, to be honest with you. You're almost on the same identical track. My first couple years included multiple failures of the diet. But I was stubborn. I just kept doing it. And I had accountability because I had the YouTube channel. I kind of had somebody going, hey, and judging me whether or not I was going to be successful at this. So, the first 2 years is a rocky road. But if you keep at it, maybe you'll end up where I got, and that's where I can do it all the time. And I have a decent mental health status in terms of that and physical health status. So I truly wish I could sit here and write the carnivore diet helped me, that vegetables are trash and that we could all eat meat, but I just can't. Not when this diet costs so much shit for me. Keto, carnivore, on the other hand, works like a charm. Yeah, ketovore, you don't have to be a strict carnivore. And I think only the most severely sensitive or damaged individuals can benefit from being a strict carnivore. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, if you are doing all right health-wise with keto, you don't really have to push into carnivore. Now, if you're still experiencing depression and anxiety on keto, then you might want to nudge it further in the carnivore spectrum, or do a carnivore reset and individualize reintroductions of foods to figure out what foods are causing you problems. You know, we've gone over that in the past, and that's part of using carnivore as a basis for an elimination diet. And the way an elimination diet works is repeatability. You bring a food back, a symptom comes back, you take the food away, the symptom goes away, and you have to be able to repeat it before you can conclude that that food is a problem. So I'm glad that that's working for you. It's weird. The only positive thing I experienced during my short time as a carnivore is that my strength in the gym went up. Well, yeah, you're getting more red meat and proteins and amino acids with which to build some muscle. You're also getting the calories if you're doing it in the ketogenic way and smothering fat all over your ribeye on top of it, which I do. I put a lot of butter on my shit. So what it boils down to, you know, the point I wanted to make with this video is don't give up. Even when you fucking do a 1 month binge and you undo every ounce of progress that you make, it just means you need to work on things a little more. You need to change your mind as well as your body. And that requires learning. You got to take the time to do this. No one's going to give you on YouTube a formula for getting healthy that doesn't require effort. Not only physical effort, but mental effort. And I think more often we focus on the physical effort and the discipline required to maintain physical effort. But there's a mental game to this. Because you're up against advertisers, friends, and family that do not agree with you getting healthy, because it means they have to get healthy too. And we're all evaluating ourselves through the lens of others, after all. So getting away from that and doing things for your own health and learning these things, it should be a lifelong process. Even after you've been keto for 5 years like I have, I still go out and seek out the latest information, the latest lectures, the latest things that I could tweak it with. Because it's not perfect. None of us are perfect. But for me, the mental health focus over the past year or so has provided me with a whole lot of new information about the diet that have allowed me to continue to passionately stick to the diet. Because I don't want to go back to the old me. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure I don't. That's not a resolve that you come to in the first year or two. That takes longer to work on. But if you keep working at it, and you don't give up, no matter how much life kicks you in the balls, and I've been kicked in the balls life-wise a few times during this growth process. You know, I've had some very dramatic changes in my life during this period, some of which would have caused me, the old me, to be in a pit of hell in terms of depression and anxiety. Turns out I'm a lot more manageable since I'm healthier. So, that's my thoughts. Let me know in the comments, why couldn't you stick to the ketogenic diet? Let's hear all the excuses. And, you know, maybe we can work on these things together and figure out the difference. I want to focus on this for a little while, because I find this is one of the biggest flaws of keto that I've seen, is the initial, I can't stick to this, I'm miserable argument. And it's a very, very common thing I hear. Not only from people in the comments, but from people in my life that try it. So the bottom line is, if you want to stick to keto, you're going to have to work on your addiction problems and your mental health as well. Requires a lot of work. And it's not easy. I'm not offering you any easiness here, because I sure know that it wasn't easy for me. So, But remember, I'm not a fucking expert, which means you shouldn't listen to a fucking thing I say. You should go out and learn shit on your own. I'm just an asshole. I have a strong opinion. I'm going to share my fucking strong opinion. If you found this video enlightening and you want me to make more fucking videos, you can head to ScottTheTruckDriver.com and leave a tip in the virtual tip jar. For every $20 received, I will fund one video, up to 5 videos per week. Any extra becomes a tip for that week. Generally, the cutoffs are on Sunday for that. So if you want to fund a video for the following week, you got to get it in before the previous Sunday. That's how I'm working it. And it seems to be working because I'm now fully funded this week and next week. So lots of videos coming. But only through the support of subscribers have I been able to do this and spend as much time making content as I have been. YouTube ad revenue just doesn't cut it for that. Otherwise, I'd have to go do other things for other incomes. So, in addition, I am sharing some other aspects of my life that going forward on the channel, so we're going to be getting into that soon. I'm streaming on the subject tonight, though by the time you watch this, that stream will have already dropped. So go check it out on DLive. Follow me on DLive if you want to participate in my live streams. But most importantly, if you want to keep up with everything I do, head to ScottTheTruckDriver.com and fill out the little email form at the bottom and join my email list and subscribe to my website, and then you get access to the subscriber lounge, which I will drop some exclusive content into for you to consume, including some downloadable stuff that I'm planning going forward. And there's already a bunch of content on there, some of which you can't see on YouTube is on there as well. So if you want access to that, you get a password when you get your first email from the subscription. So it might take a few days. It depends on when my next email goes out. So it's not right away. Then you can do that. And you can keep up with all the videos I put out because I put those in the email. You just click the links in the email and it should open up your YouTube app on your phone or in your browser. And you can just watch the videos without worrying about that fucking bell icon or algorithms and shit. And the more people we can get onto that email list, the more I can do content-wise, because YouTube doesn't allow everything on here, and I won't put everything on here because of that. So that's it for this fucking video. Please like and subscribe for more shit. I promise you I'll make more shit. Even if I don't get funded, there's still going to be videos every now and then, whenever time permits. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit. I got a lot of dopamine from doing that right now. It's good. It's a pleasurable activity. Not once during that was I craving any food. It's pretty awesome. Even with that picture, you know, this picture that was fucking behind me here, even that did nothing for me. I didn't fap to it or anything.